Hello, everyone. Thank you for waiting, being patient. We're getting few things get ready here. So thank you, everybody. Now we're going to start the session. Tonight is a very auspicious anniversary of Mahasiddha Virupa, attaining the first bhumi. He consecutively attained 6 bhumis. So therefore it's very auspicious thing to be teaching this as regular, but coinciding this with Mahasiddha Virupa's anniversary. So we'll straight away go into the formality of doing the refuge, rejoicing that this lineage, Sakyapa lineage, which we are connected to, is really attributed to Mahasiddha Virupa. All the Tibetan lineages have their Indian forefathers to source their lineages, and Lamdre lineage sources Mahasiddha Virupa in India. And like Padmasambhava with all the earlier translation Nyingma teachings, and like Naropa and so on. For the Kagyupa, for the Sakyapa, Virupa is a very important figure. So it's auspicious that we are doing this teaching here tonight. So as we will do the refuge and four immeasurables. First, as before we start the teaching, everybody, thank you. Oyenda Buddha Dhamma Asanga Aitere Pyute Lajame by virtue Ajevendala Ajare Buddha Jave and Buddha Dhamma Asanga Aitere Pyute Lajame by virtue Ajevendala Ajare Buddha Jave and Buddha Dhamma Asanga Aitere Pyute Lajame by virtue Ajevendala Ajare Buddha Jave. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and cause of suffering. May they know our power from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, and those never. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know our power from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, and those never. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, and those never. Ego de intelligence and predisposition of the Janda Dharma Agrelo and Gama Vigos. So just to remind you that this is was going to be the last session, but since we didn't do the teaching last week, we will extend another week, so there will be another session next week before we have the term break. Of course, so therefore the handout that we have sent you tonight includes the handout also for next week as well. So now we are discussing in these teachings, just in case those who are joining, who happen to be listening and viewing this transmission for the first time, this is a regular teaching we do, and often different topics. And so we've been studying Asanga's Uttaratantra. Asanga is a celebrated 4th century Mahayana Buddhist scholar. He's only second to the likes of Nagarjuna. He is highly revered and remembered for his amazing work. These 5 treatises, of which Uttaratantra Shastra is one of them. The topic of Uttaratantra Shastra, Uttaratantra really means sublime continuum, means highest continuum. That refers to our intrinsic nature. That is Buddha nature, So, and then even though it is called Uttaratantra, it is not a tantra. It's not an esoteric subject. So, tantra means continuity. It doesn't mean esoteric. And Uttara means sublime or highest continuum. Highest continuum or mentality is Buddha nature. And so therefore that shows the topic of this text is Buddha nature. And that Buddha nature is covered in 7 topics called 7 Vajra points. And we are discussing the 5th Vajra points. First 3 are the Buddha Vajra points, Dhamma Vajra point, Sangha Vajra points, and then the Buddha nature Vajra points. We covered those all in the last 2 terms. Now this one we've been covering is the 5th one. 5th Vajra points is enlightenment, the Buddhahood. Buddhahood is the topic. So we started that with verse number 169 onwards. The Buddhahood is covered in 8 attributes, 8 qualities. The cause of the Buddhahood, nature of the Buddhahood, and the result of Buddhahood, the function of the Buddhahood, and then possession of the Buddhahood, the 5th, and the 6th one is the engagement of the Buddhahood. So that's what we are discussing. Engagement is how does the enlightened being engages themselves for the benefit of sentient beings. Hence, this topic, which we've been discussing, covers bulk of that is talking about how does Buddha engages with 3 kayas. So the 3 kayas. The Dharmakaya and Sambhogakaya. These 2 we already covered. Now tonight we're going to go over just the summary of the last verse, towards verse number 219. Verse 219 goes to talk about the last verse is analogy that it says that just as various hues radiating from a gem is actually not itself, If you have a multicolored kind of radiation because of the color of the gem, if the gem is red, the ruby, and then when the light comes on, then it will radiate red. If it's emerald green, if it's crystal white, and turquoise blue, and so on. So that's what it means. Just as various hues radiate from gem is actually not itself, It's a color, or whatever is the color. Like that, likewise, due to various situations of sentient beings, because sentient beings are in different karmic predicament. Sentient beings, like human beings, have a particular collective karma of not finding difficult inside a house, So they all feel like living in a house. But they will not do so in the ocean or river. But the fish and all the water creatures, they live in the water. They will not survive in the room like this even for a few minutes. So we're talking about different, due to various situations, karmic predicament, and collective and karmic predicament of situation. All pervasive does not actually appears as it is. So it means that the enlightened nature of themselves do not all manifest due to their predicament, due to their obscurations. Even though everybody has this Buddha nature, how the Buddha engages with the world, but Buddha engages, but sentient beings, due to the obscuration, they do not see the Buddha. They do not see the Buddha. Like the Sambhogakaya cannot be seen by you and me either, Yeah? Let alone Dharmakaya. We couldn't see the Dharmakaya, we couldn't see the Sambhog. But we can see Nirmanakaya. But even among the human beings who can see Nirmana, only few can see the Nirmanakaya. Others just walk past the Buddha. Some will deliberately go to Bodh Gaya, others living in Bodh Gaya going to Mecca. or maybe to the pub. and they don't see their karmic predicament. They don't see anything special, holy about Bodh Gaya. They would like to go and sell some vegetables to the Buddhists there, but they don't go to the holy. They rather see. Even human beings, not everybody would appreciate the manifestation of Nirmanakaya. So that's what it's talking about, okay? This is very important, that analogy, the verse number 219, because it's now going to explain tonight the Nirmanakaya, how the Nirmanakaya Shakyamuni Buddha appeared in the world. So the Nirmanakaya. Tonight we're going to talk about Nirmanakaya and actual characteristic of Nirmanakaya and activities of Nirmanakaya. So we are all feeling the activities of the Nirmanakaya. We are all dint of Nirmanakaya. We are all consequences of the Buddha Nirmanakaya. Why would he bother to appear in the world? So that he will have these amazing positive consequences. But only if those sentient beings whose situation permit themselves to be exposed to the preeminent existence of the Nirmanakaya. If we don't have the karma and merit in our predicament, we wouldn't appreciate Nirmanakaya. So that's why, so the Nirmanakaya, we'll talk about the Nirmanakaya, and because Nirmanakaya is the third aspect of the sixth point, which is engagement. How does the Buddha engages? Buddha engages with sentient beings as a Dharmakaya as well as Sambhogakaya. Third, he engages with the Nirmanakaya. So actual characteristic of the Nirmanakaya. Nirmanakaya means manifestation body. Nirmana means manifestation. Kaya means body or form. Form of manifestation form. The Sanskrit they use called avatar. You know the movie Avatar? Avatar means manifestation. Avatara means manifestation, Tulku, we call in Tibetan Tulku, Have you heard the word Tulku? Yeah, he's a Tulku, she's Tulku. Tulku means is a someone who's recognized as a manifestation, You and I are not recognized, But we are manifestation of karma, our past lives, but nobody has bothered to pick us and give a label. That's good. Actually, we are nothing. That's good. Anyway, so here tonight we're going to really auspicious in Asanga we'll be talking about the 12 great deeds of the Buddha. Mm-hmm. So to discuss the actual Nirmanakaya, characteristics of Nirmanakaya, it says that having known and seen the world through great compassion. So this is talking about the Buddha. Buddha from his abode of enlightenment, Dharmakaya. And from his pure abode of Dharmakaya, he actually explores and surveys when he should be born, and where he should be born, what mother he should have, what caste of India or family he should be born, and so on. So he makes those careful 5 observations. Having known those 5 observations, the place, like Jambudvipa, the mother, the Mahayana Devi, in the time whenever her lifespan is only 10 months and 9 days left, and and in the caste of the king, in the king, and so he made those observations, having known that and seen the world in which he will be born, through great compassion. Yeah, Buddha came out of compassion to save and teach the world that is dark and covered in sufferings. So, is motivated by his great compassion, and motivated by compassion, and surveying the plight of every sentient being's miserable situations. And it says, while not parting from Dharmakaya. So Dharmakaya is always present, Dharmakaya is always present even in us, but we don't see it. The Nirmanakaya is always manifestation of Nirmanakaya. So Dharmakaya. So the rainbow is like the Nirmanakaya. The sky is the Dharmakaya. So you can't have rainbow without the sky, You can't have rainbow in the middle of a wall, for instance. Rainbow is only happening in empty sky. So Dharmakaya is emptiness, So that's what it says, while not parting from Dharmakaya, the infinity, with various forms of manifestation. Yeah. Now, the Buddha manifests Nirmanakaya with various manifestations. Various manifestations. Here we're going to talk about tonight the excellent Nirmanakaya, okay? So we're going to come, because Shakyamuni Buddha came to the world showing his excellent Nirmanakaya. And therefore, it says, the Nirmanakaya excellently, so that's excellent Nirmanakaya, choki tulku, So Nirmanakaya could be not just excellent Nirmanakaya, but could be like birth Nirmanakaya, artistic Nirmanakaya, and all kinds of, Nirmanakaya of the Buddha could be beautiful nature, could be mountain, could be scenery of the world, a beautiful world, These are all kind of form of Nirmanakaya. But this excellent Nirmanakaya, the excellent Nirmanakaya necessarily shows 12 great deeds. 12 great deeds. So the 12 great deeds we will go through. We got a tanka here too. Excellent Nirmanakaya excellently takes birth into the highest birth. Yeah? The highest birth is the Shakyamuni Buddha prior to coming to the world he was born in Tushita heaven, He was in the Tushita heaven. He was there by the name of Shwetaketu. Shwetaketu means one with a white crown. So the reigning Buddha in the Tushita is always have the title Shwetaketu. Right now, that reign is held by Maitreya. So Maitreya is busy being Shwetaketu. Okay, he can't come downstairs. He's busy, got job up there to do. He can't leave his space and go and see Asanga or teach him. So Shakyamuni Buddha was in Tushita heaven in the role of Shwetaketu, means the one with the white crown. And that's the first one. That's takes birth and highest birth. Because he is reigning Buddha in there. Every reigning future Buddha is always the reigning Buddha in Tushita heaven. So out of the 12 great deeds, that's the first one. Second one is descent from the Tushita realm. So then he actually descends from the Tushita realm. We can show the photo there, Tanka. Yeah, can people see? Good. Okay, good. Yeah. So if you see of course, if you have a good eye, you might, it goes down from the top and then go left and the right. It goes like that. So all the 12 great deeds. Nirmanakaya actually descend from the Tushita realm. Tushita Shakyamuni Buddha, after having done the 5 observation of mother and land and time and so on, then he descends in the dream of Mahayana Devi as a white elephant. That's impossible usually. And with 6 tasks. Can you imagine that? 6 tasks with the white elephant entered into her body when Mahayana Devi was sleeping in Kushina in Kapilavastu. So that is the story of descension from Tushita realm in the mother's womb. That's the conception. That's the night that Shakyamuni Mahayana Devi conceived the Buddha. So that's the second major great deeds. And then what did he do? Descending to the world, and where did he land it? Enter the womb. Yeah, enter the womb of the Mahayana Devi. That fertile womb of Mahayana Devi, and King Shuddhodana, who's the father, mother is Mahayana Devi. So he chose. After made all those 5 careful observations, he enters the womb of Mahayana Devi, and Mahayana Devi, when she woke up in the morning, she didn't know that she has conceived a child. Of course, when in the West we say mother conceived a child. In Buddhism we don't say mother conceived child. It's a child conceived the mother. Child conceived the mother, and the mother just landed unexpectedly. She just didn't know what she was doing. She thought she was doing something else. But you have no idea what that event culminated into. So that's the enters in the womb, and when she woke up in the morning, she had this amazing joy and bliss that never, and she had the most vivid dreams, and she couldn't stop but rush to her husband and tell these stories, all the dreams, and it was unbelievable story. The sign that she felt that some celestial music was played in her tummy, and she could feel bliss. She was lifted up in space. She never felt anything like that. There was so much detailed description of the story of the dream. Yeah, and then as soon as that was happened, then she tells. And the Shuddhodana was delighted, That's the father, He was delighted, and he then invited the wise Brahmins and soothsayers and astrologers and all those wizards of ancient India. and they all prophesied what those dreams meant, and saying that she has conceived these either Chakravartin, wheel-turning king, or if he becomes a monk, he will be the enlightened one. So that was all told, The dream was very, very accurate, and they were not wrong. And because she had so much experience, that already was very, very indicated. She just needed confirmation from the wise. King was so delighted. So that's entering the womb, And then after 10 months, 10 months, Buddha was a very long conception, long, pregnancy. Mother had long pregnancy. Gestation period was longer than average human beings. So we are all prematurely born. That's our problem. It should be 10 months. Then we'll be fully baked. We came out of the oven too quickly. This is the problem. So if you're enlightened, always 10 complete months. 10 complete months. After 10 complete months, when Mahayana Devi was feeling like she's going to give, she never had any of the morning sickness and all the kind of pregnancy difficulties. You never had prenatal depression and all of that, So she straight away took precepts every day. She told her husband she's going to observe, take 8 precepts every day. During those days, not Buddhist precept, but Hindus and Indians always observed those precepts anyway. It was Indian culture, It was hundreds of years before Buddha came, they were observing many of these things. So most of the precepts are nothing Buddhist about it. It's only the view that something view. The actual precepts of abstaining, these, not eating, fasting, all of that was very strongly in, and how his mother observed all during the whole period of pregnancy, and the story tells why he was born in Lumbini, because Lumbini is about 12 miles east of Kapilavastu, and Kapilavastu is the capital where the Buddha conceived, but somehow the story says that he was born in Lumbini. The text birth, it says, text birth. The text birth is born in Lumbini. Lumbini is the name of a garden that was named after Buddha's grandmother. So you should know that, Lumbini is name of Buddha's grandmother. And her husband built a garden in her honor because she loved the garden. Particularly in her ripe age, she always kept going to some rich family's garden. The husband said, "What the hell are you doing? Always wandering off in somebody's garden? You're my queen." And she said, "No, I like gardens." And then he said, "Look, if that's the case, I'll build you a purpose-built garden for you to go and enjoy. Doesn't look really appropriate for you wandering off some wealthy people's garden from my palace." Anyway, so then in between Kapilavastu and the Devadaha, they built this garden, and the garden is very special, and it was named after her because she loved the garden. So Lumbini is always called a Lumbini garden. Anyway, the story is that Buddha, his mother went there, and either on the way to see her mother's place to give birth. Some people say that because in India those days, girls when they're about to give birth, they go to the maternal home so that they receive proper motherly care because you need maternal. They don't have maternal ward in Kapilavastu hospital those days. So they have to. So it said that she was going to Devadaha. On the way, they stopped in Lumbini garden and miraculously was born in Lumbini. His birth was painless, and the mother gave birth, in the Lumbini garden. And that's the fourth one. The fifth one becomes very skilled in creative arts. Yeah, then the young Prince Siddhartha, as soon as Siddhartha was born, mother had no pain. He walked 7 steps on the east and the south and the west and the north. Each step that he put on the ground, a lotus blossom, and he said that this will be his last life, and he is the excellent one, and he proclaimed that already. So as soon as he did that, the Brahma and Indra and all the gods descended from heaven, poured heavy holy water, gave a bath to him and Mahayana Devi, and so Lumbini garden now is complete garden with a nice pond, nice, I would say, swimming pool. There's actually in Lumbini there is a pond there, so takes birth in Lumbini, and so then as soon as he was born, the birth of Buddha was happened on the full moon too. This is full moon, the Vesak full moon. Only a couple of weeks ago he was born. So this is Sakadawa is a birth month. Born there, and his birth accompanied most humongous bright light that illuminated the whole world, Indian subcontinent. All the 6 kings of India and all of their queens gave birth too. 6 princes were all born at the same time when Buddha was born. And the world was lit with such bright light, every king thought it was because of his greatness of him as a king. The world was lit. And they all named the sons Prince with the bright light. They didn't know the light was to do with Buddha, Each of these 6 kings, their sons have very strong karmic connection with Buddha, So it's all meant to happen, So the Nirmanakaya is amazing, fantastically organized. Everything was timed perfectly, and they were just zooming. They were zooming each other, and it all happened at the same time. Only later on they realized how each of the king gave the name to the sun, all named after that bright light. And only later they realized the bright light has all to do with Buddha's birth. And the light shone from the Buddha's birth and illuminated whole Indian subcontinent. And whether it's Prasenajita or Pradyodita or Bimbisara, all of their names were given after that bright light. So hence the Vesak Purnima, the full moon in Vesak. takes birth. Anyway, as soon as not only his birth was filled with light, but whole kingdom of Shakya had many, many miraculous occurrences, such as discovering lots of treasures. All the sick become well, all the old become young, all the fighting people become harmonious, and all the poor become wealthy, and sad become happy, and when this happened, King Shuddhodana was so happy. He had no hesitation but to name his son Siddhartha. Siddhartha meaning accomplishment. He has the greatest accomplishment, not because he fathered a son, but this son's birth had brought a lot of things accomplished. So Siddhartha means word Siddha, Artha. These two words together. Siddha really means Mahasiddha, yeah? Mahasiddha means the adept who have achieved. Artha meaning meaningful achievement. Siddhartha meaning meaningful achievement, okay? Tibetan Tundrup. Gyalbu Tundrup, Siddhartha. He was given that name. And then, of course, he, without needing to teach, even though they hired like 16, tutors to teach all 16 great arts and science, and I don't know, those days IT didn't exist, but archery, swimming, reading, writing, you name it, singing, all things were taught. He became very skilled in all of the creative arts. So that's the fifth of the 12 links, 12 major deeds, and takes delight in the playful company of royal consorts. So this is talking about that the king Shuddhodana had no intention of his son becoming mendicant. He had every intention to make him a king, and before he reached even age 12, he was insisting that he marries, Anyway, so King Shuddhodana goes and organizes the beautiful Shakya maiden, Yashodhara. Yashodhara was one of the most beautiful, elegant, the woman like an angel that every king, all these Indian 6 kings, prince wanted to marry her. And King Shuddhodana wanted, and Buddha said, no, Siddhartha said, no, I'm not marrying anybody. He said, there is no woman that is suited to him. And father said, come on, don't say that. I'm sure you have to do that. And he says, only if you find a woman of these qualities. So he wrote 16 qualities of a special woman, And so they sent people everywhere looking for this young girl who has all these amazing qualities. And they all discovered that was Yashodhara, the daughter of Dandapani. Shakya wealthy family. Anyway, so to cut the long story short, and finally all the young maidens were brought in. Among them she was, and Buddha still refused. He said, "You wouldn't find any woman of my list of this description. Even if you find, I still don't want to marry." Anyway, the king and minister said, "Look, he's being really uncooperative. Let's have a party." And then they have a party, invite all the beautiful young girls, including Yashodhara. And then during that evening, they made the Buddha, Siddhartha, to give a gift to every girl. And then he ran out of all the gifts, and there was still one girl left who hasn't got a gift. And that was Yashodhara. So Yashodhara, one of the 16 quality was very, very polite. She let everybody go ahead of her, and she is the last one. So that's, these are the sort of qualities Siddhartha wrote, and she proved to be. And then he took his own ring and gave it to her. And then the ministers and king were so happy. Oh, he said, that's it. you see, she is the right one. Anyway, so finally, they had to do lots of sporting competitions and so on. Anyway, so he married Queen Yashodhara. Yashodhara suffered a lot, poor lady. I mean, that might have been a very nice night, but but later on, when he Siddhartha leaves, she had lots of difficulties. So like then is the next one. So up to these first 6 of the 12 deeds are called. The first 6 deeds are in concordant with the worldly life. So worldly life. Then the last 6 is all to do with the life of an enlightened one. So renouncing, he says, renounces. So he renounces the palace, the royalty, royal life, the comfort, company, enjoyment, and duty. All of that he renounced. He had no interest whatsoever. So there's a story of he seeing the 4 sides of all the sick and dead and the mendicant. And these things were all just 4 sightings, and then he made up his mind that he wanted to renounce it all, just as it was prophesied that he will leave the world and he will become enlightened one. And nobody could dissuade him, including his father Shuddhodana and his wife Yashodhara. And his mother died 1 week after he was born. So therefore, he didn't have a lot of relationship with his mother. But quickly, his auntie, Prajapati Gautami, who was the elder sister of Maya Devi, was brought in. In those days, they always do that. Sometimes they take 2-3 wives of the same sister, of the same family. Anyway, so when Maya Devi passed away, Shuddhodana took the sister, Prajapati Gautami, for practical reasons as well as to have a queen, and that is so that he can also be there for the young child. Anyway, Prajapati Gautami is the mother that features very important in Buddha's life later on, particularly with women's ordination and all of that. So anyway, he renounces all of that. He renounces auntie, he renounces wife, he renounces position, he renounced everybody's request. He just ran. He just asked. He woke up his attendant, whose name is Chandaka. Chandaka was also born his same birthday, Another special boy, and he was sort of karmic, strong connection. He had the karma to be Buddha's attendant. He was born the same, and he says. Siddhartha, in the middle of the night, woke him up, which he never used to. He never wake him up, your servant, Servant, you don't have to go and wake up the servant, Usually the servant will be up earlier doing things. And this time, he woke the servant and he gone, get ready the horse, we have to go. And he protested, so why? What kind? Where you want to go? What for? He says, no, you've been such a loyal servant up to now. This is last time you will do this for me, and please don't refuse. Go and get the horse ready. Kantaka is the horse. Anyway, Chandaka goes and gets ready the horse, and then Buddha rides the horse, and then the four guardians lift the 4 hooves of the horse, and they flew. Because all the gates and doors were locked, and everybody was armed. They know he will escape, and they don't want him to leave. If it wasn't the miraculous, what do you call, pinch by helicopter, by 4 guardians, and he would have not been able to go. Anyway, so he renounces by escaping from the northern gate. It looked like a northern gate, but they never used the gate. They just flew over it. So that's the north has a meaning of purified. He just left, and that's it. He never would come back. Not as the same person anyway. So symbol of he's just gone. Gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhisattva, gone. Yeah. So he renounces, and then he practiced 6 years of asceticism. Remember that? So I will be a short, but these are very important. And he goes and study with Alara and another teacher, all the mundane worldly meditation. They taught him for all the jhanas and whatever. Worldly calm and body meditation, they were very good. He mastered them all, but then his meditation surpassed his teachers. And then he he adopted this very severe discipline to live a very ascetic life by fasting and refusing to receive any help. And because Buddha's father Shishodana and his uncle like Amritodana and others, they all sent 100 people each with all the riches and food, clothing and carts and horse and everything. They all send to go away, find Siddhartha and make sure they will provide his well-being. But Siddhartha refused to accept anything from them and told them to go away. And he kept only one person from each of the 5 groups, and that's how his 5 mendicants came from that. And they weren't doing much. They were all sitting around watching him do, and they also sort of was inspired by this young prince's enthusiasm, and they also practiced asceticism along with him. And so that's he practiced that one in the bank of river Niranjana. Some people say it's in the caves near Bodh Gaya, but others say it's right on the bank of river Niranjana. But definitely not the same place we attain enlightenment. Okay, so you don't get me wrong saying Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree 6 years. That's never the case. He sat where he sat at the river Niranjana's bank or somewhere for 6 years. After that, he felt very weak one day, and he almost woke up from his meditation. He said, maybe I've been pushing too hard, because he felt really, really not right. And when he went for looking for water, and then the Sujata Brahmin girl has prepared this special milk pudding, and she offered that, and as soon as he just took one bowl of that drink, his body just completely rejuvenated like a royal prince, as he always was. He's only 35, after 6 years of fasting, even anyway. So practice 6 days. Then he realized, where should I go? He knew that there must be a place he should go and finish his meditation. And then he goes forth to claim the essence of enlightenment. So that is the actually. He goes to the place under the Bodhi tree. So it goes forth to claim the essence of enlightenment. Actually, enlightenment. He went to there, but actually enlightenment did not happen before he completed the conquest of the Maras. So actually, conquest of Mara is the 9th one, and the attaining enlightenment is the 10th one, sequence-wise. But while he went in search of his place of enlightenment, the Vajrasana, diamond seat, under the Bodhi tree, he sat there, and he conquered the Maras in that very night. At dusk, he conquers the Mara, and at dawn, he attained enlightenment. So these all happened. So 9th and 10th are in the different order. It's a wrong order, because conquering Mara happened in the middle of the enlightenment, remember? So that's why the 9th one comes listed like that. And then when he completes the conquest of Mara, means he conquered them, not so much symbolically the Maras of the external ones. He conquered the 4 Maras, Skanda Mara, Klesha Mara, and Mritu Mara, Devaputra Mara. Buddha was completely overcome all the 4 Maras. As a symbol of that, he was attacked by these terrible demons who aggressively attacked him, as well as tried to seduce him by manifesting young, beautiful daughters of the Mara, but unfortunately, beautiful young daughters of the Mara all turned into 4 hags, and they all look very ugly. And of course, he couldn't be seduced, and so the conquest of Mara is happening in the dusk, and at dawn full moon, and then he attained enlightenment. So that's the 10th one. And then the 11th one, he turns the wheel of Dharma of enlightenment. Then he gives the teaching. Rest of the 45 years of the Buddha, starting with the first sermon he gave in Buddha Saranath, and then in Vaishali, and then in Vulture Peak, and 25 years in Shravasti, and number of other places also. Wherever Buddha went, whatever meeting he had with people, all became teachings. It never was quite a lot of them are informal, but they all became teaching. They all become thus I've heard. So the thus I've heard is all these Buddhas. He was not just teaching only formally and sits on there. No, I didn't think when the Buddha was teaching, he didn't have any elegant throne that you need half a dozen monks that you have to lift it up. No, he probably sat on a very humble seat, and every time he met somebody like Krishna Gautami comes and talks to him, or he meets him Angulimala with his bloody knife and about to kill him, but that also became a teaching. So Buddha was teaching every time, wherever he was meeting with people, the conversation, the encounter, everything became a teaching. So all the teaching, turns the wheel of Dharma of enlightenment all the time. It's not only once a week he was teaching. He was teaching continuously throughout all the time. He had more invisible audience than visible audience. Okay, so don't you worry that you have only few audience. When Buddha has more. First people thought there were only five reluctant monks in Varanasi. I disagree with that. There were more invisible audience. Avalokiteshvara wasn't with four-armed thing. Avalokiteshvara was a tall Brahmin monk. Vajrapani was just a chubby little Bihari boy. So don't think there's all this deities hanging around. They're all named like that, but otherwise they're all just average dark-skinned Indian young men, all inspired by their hero. Anyway. All 45 years, he turned the wheel of Dharma. He gave everybody a vehicle because they're all stranded in samsara. And without the vehicle, he put them all in vehicle and set them off. And they all took off. So this is very nice. Turned the wheel of Dharma. He just start the engine, and they went in the machine, and they never looked back. And passes into nirvana. So then he, after passing away into nirvana, is the teaching, is the last teaching in which he spoke, persevere with diligence, and shows these deeds in impure realms as long as world remain. So for the sake of people like us, Buddha deliberately manifests as a Prince Siddhartha and revealed these 12 great deeds. And we are all consequences of that magic deeds of the Buddha. If it wasn't the enlightenment, it wasn't the teaching, even the rest of all other deeds was non-mentionable things. How many babies are born, how many people leave, this all sorts of things. But because he got enlightened and he's taught, all the former deeds and later deeds become part of that 12 excellently great deeds of the enlightened one. So that's the actual characteristic of excellent nirvana. When Buddha was born, his body was covered in 112 marks, 32 major, and we will come to that. Next term when we go over the qualities of the enlightened qualities, which is the sixth Vajra point, it goes to list all the 112 marks of Buddha and to explain them why each of them are what they are. So this is the book. This is the text that explains all of that. And now the activities of the enlightened, the Nirmanakaya, is captured in this: knowing the sounds of impermanent, suffering, selfless, and peace. These are the four seals of the Dharma. 4 seals of Dharma. What did the Buddha do? Buddha turned the wheel of Dharma, and his Dharma, turning the wheel of Dharma is his activity. His activity was that he taught all people who hear the sound, knowing the sounds, meaning, like say, if you're quiet, the sound will truly wake you up. Oh, I heard a sound. Like that. When people heard about impermanent, they all took notice. Because they heard that impermanent teaching as of teaching they never heard before. And so on. The suffering, the nature of suffering is prevalent. And there is no self, and nirvana is peace. These four sounds of Dharma was humming, and everyone was hearing this sound by the activities of the Buddha. Why? It says here, will persuade sentient beings. The purpose of sounding the impermanent teaching that things are impermanent, maybe you should do that. Just go around the street when everything is impermanent. Just act like you're a little bit a nutty person. Everything is impermanent. It's really good. Maybe you'll make a day. The teaching, everything's impermanent. What the hell he's talking about? Everything's impermanent. But when you start thinking about it, it's really true. So all these four things. Why is making this sound? Will persuade sentient beings and arouse sadness. To know that everything's impermanent. You are having a wonderful youth, maybe a wonderful job, maybe a wonderful career, but it's impermanent. You have a beautiful career, beautiful friend, but nothing, But you see, but you think they should last the same, last long, don't you? No, it says everything's impermanent. Then you wake up to know that it is truth, People are usually shocked that when things are impermanent. Oh, why do you do that to me? They call it. Because they never heard the sound that everything's impermanent. They say, why did you do that to me? Yeah. If those who know everything's impermanent wouldn't think like that. They say, everything's impermanent, so why wouldn't he do that to me? So nothing becomes a cause of shock and disappointment when you have heard the sound. Why? To persuade sentient beings, to arouse the sadness of the prevalent nature of impermanent things. Not just you, not just he doing to you, but they do to her too. And him do that too. You wouldn't believe everybody doing these things to each other. Not because they are bad, it's because things are impermanent. They can't hold the thing together very long. Poor thing. They ran out of steam. He dropped because he was holding by shivering and trembling, and he just dropped, How long can anything, even the bridge collapse, Even castles collapse, even empires collapse. So why are you disappointed with something happening in your life? Because you haven't heard the noise that everything is permanent. You think it's terrible. See, this is a very profound teaching. The activities of Buddha is to wake up people from these four slumbers, that everything should be permanent. Nobody should suffer. I'm real. These kind of wrong views, people are stuck. And this noise, this sound is waking, the word sound. The commentary says it should be translated as a sound, Some people translate it in the text theory, four theories. Why, who want to study theory when you can be woken up by a loud noise? So, dai in Tibetan, they say dai, the sound of impermanent. That's why they usually beat the gongs. Everything is impermanent. The bell goes. In Korea, there's a bell goes every big temple bells go gong. They always know what's the temple telling. Everything's impermanent. Everything is unsatisfactory. So don't you think it's only yours? So anyway, three realms. The sadness, around the sadness with renunciation, the three realms of existence. Buddha's giving the Dharma is always telling the truth. Most people don't want to hear the truth, because they want to hear a sanitized version of everything, They don't want to do the real meditation. They want to do the sanitized version of meditation. The real meditation you have to do until your bottom become callous. You know. Until you sit and sit and sit, and you have to suffer your bottom so much that you have the choices whether you want to meditate or want to preserve your bottom. Those who preserve the bottom never get enlightenment. They will die with a smooth bottom, but no enlightenment. Milarepa's bottom is completely hard, but he got enlightenment. You see? So, they are made to fully enter into the state beyond sorrow. Yeah, that's the activity of the Buddha. That's the activity of the Buddha, is to wake sentient beings from the slumber, and so as to arouse them to enter into the Dharma. Those who have perfectly entered the path of peace, yeah. So this means that those people who have good fortune to meet and greet the Dharma, and know that they have attained state of nirvana. They know what a peace, what amazing fortitude, and is Dharma. What an amazing idea it is. What a great idea it is. They have a magazine in Australia called Good Idea. Oh, this is a good idea. You haven't read anything good until you really hear the Dharma, And you would have already made nirvana. You haven't got the same anger. You haven't got the same selfishness. You haven't got the same resentment and angst and idleness and all this poor me mentality anymore in you, because they've attained the state of nirvana. You already would have put your feet already on the path of nirvana. The Sacred White Lotus Sutra and other texts explain the nature of phenomena. See? Now this has to be a teaching given after Buddha has taught all of these things, Shakyamuni Buddha. So therefore, there is no Maitreya teaching this, that's for sure. This is all quoting Shakyamuni Buddha's texts, such as White Lotus Sutra. He's saying the White Lotus Sutra and other Mahayana texts all explain the nature, elaborate those 4 seals of Dharma, to guide people and to enter into the Dharma. Having refrained former beliefs. So meaning that once you have heard the teachings very well, now you will not be holding your former wrong views, wrong beliefs. Fully adopting skillful means, so now you would adopt to put the other first, not think of this life, but prioritize next life, not think about the body, but for the mind. So all of adopting the skillful means and discriminating wisdom, your wisdom, and having matured on the supreme vehicle. Now you have actually entered into the vehicle of the Mahayana vehicle. There is the prophecy of supreme enlightenment. Each and every one of our enlightenment is guaranteed once you have conceived bodhicitta. Even Buddha did not attain Buddhahood until bodhicitta was conceived. He's vowed, he's resolved, he renewed, he prayed, he practiced again and again and again, not just once, not just twice, for many, many eons, uncountable eons, and attain Buddhahood. So that's the activities of what we call the activities of the enlightened one. Activities of Nirmanakaya is making sentient beings to hear the 4 seals of Dharma. Wow. Yeah, that's the aim. The aim is to make everybody read get to familiarization with 4 seals of Dharma. If people don't understand 4 seals of Dharma, they haven't understood Buddhism. They may chant, they may do all kind of cultural behaviors, but they're all doing it mainly for kind of a cultural, religious behavior. But they need to understand, comprehend the philosophy, because if they've heard the 4 seals of Dharma and they have woken up by the sound of the bell, they have to be sound. They have to be woken up by the noise. You have to be this well, enough noise, not to say I didn't hear that. Some people say no, I didn't hear the bell. But nobody say I didn't hear. If Buddhist people have to have heard and woken up by this four. If you have not still have woken up by impermanent, you're still moaning and groaning. Poor me. I tell you, this is really true. Those who have realized and woken up by the sound of impermanent, you have humility to accept whatever happens. You wouldn't try to say, he did this to me, so I will prove him wrong. How dare he do this to me? You don't go on that. Because if you have been woken up from the noise that everything is impermanent, and don't go on and on about it. And suffering is prevalent. It's not just you. See? Once you have been woken up by the teaching, suffering is prevalent, you wouldn't complain about yours. You wouldn't even have anxiety about suffering because the suffering is, there is no time, there is no suffering. And to pretend that you don't suffer, to pretend that you can avoid suffering is already arrogance. Suffering is cause of humility. And one who has suffered the sufferings, you should hear that as a teaching and wake you up from by the noise that suffering is prevalent. Particularly if you don't know how to stop the three causes. The self-grasping, affliction, and wrong karma, negative karma that one consummate under the sway of these. So that's why one who have heard the suffering and heard the pride, which rejects suffering, and now humbly accept it, and not become depressed with that, but accept that as a nature of life. Full stop. And then, of course, it's quite easy to understand selflessness. And all suffering came from selfishness. And if you don't want suffering, start practicing the opposite, being selfless. And it's just so simple as that. The remedy for suffering is selflessness, and the practice for nirvana, peace, is practice selflessness. So, knowing these four sounds of impermanent, suffering, selflessness, and peace is the activity of the Nirmanakaya. Shakyamuni Buddha did this, and that's the biggest task, Even you have to do other things, various things. You have to establish the kind of a logistic of things. You need a place to meet and administration run. The most important is these teachings has to be constantly taught so that more people are woken up by this noise. So we have to make much noise about it. We have to make as much noise as possible. And each of us has duty to wake up those sleepy people who are refusing, who are clinging to things as a permanent. Yeah, and we have to hit them. We have to wake them up, and that everything is impermanent, suffering, selfless, and peace. If you did that, then they are all prophesied to become enlightened. So that's the activity of it. Activity of the Nirmanakaya, okay? And right now we are all experiencing the effect of the activity of Shakyamuni Buddha's enlightenment, Nirmanakaya. The one Nirmanakaya, the excellent Nirmanakaya Shakyamuni Buddha, 2,665 years ago, 2,565 years ago, this happened. That noise hasn't stopped, It's still humming and bumming, It's still humming and buzzing, we're hearing it. And the more you are practicing, if you are always perching on the cushion every practicing, it's because you're heeding to the teachings. You realize that life is like that. And then you will be tolerant with somebody who's difficult. You don't complain about things. Why he's like that? Why he isn't like that? That's the nature of existence. It's like saying, why the fire is so hot? Because this nature of the fire is hot. So you'd never complain. It's not because of him, not because of her, not because of you. It's nature of existence. That's the nature of things. So we shouldn't be shocked or surprised there's somebody doing this or not doing that or turn exactly opposite way. It's quite common. It's quite nature. It's natural. It's not just 1 in 5. It's 1 and 5 do that all. Just question is when they will do, when you won't do, when he won't do. So don't single out you or single out him, please. That's the nature of sentient beings who are under the yoke of their karma that they themselves have put on the wagon to pull. You will have lots of humility to accept. And you wouldn't know how to complain because you realize it's so futile to complain and to, why is like that? Why is like that? Why not? Have some understanding. You still haven't heard these basic teachings? What kind of advanced practice are you trying to do? Give me a break. Do not need any advanced practice. Just be mindful. Remember these 4. Whether you're reciting mantra, whether you're doing dzogchen, whether you're doing completion practice, so forget it. If you don't remember these things, what's the completion stage? What is the Mahamudra? These are the right views. These 4 are the right views that because sentient beings don't see these things, we feel compassion to them. Not because they have no money, not because they have no friend or family. That couldn't be fixed by everybody. But because they have not been woken up by this. So that's the activity of enlightenment. And then the conclusion, this is the 7th, we're still talking about the 6th one, that's the engage, how the enlightenment engages in 3 kayas. So that's the Dharmakaya, Nirmanakaya, and Sambhogakaya. And the meaning of the kayas is captured in conclusion, the verse number 227. So when it says, since these constitute, it's referred to these 3 kayas. These 3 kayas constitute, firstly, constitute depth. Depth refers to Dharmakaya. Depth refers to Dharmakaya because Dharmakaya is very vast and deep. You can't say where Dharmakaya starts, where it doesn't start. It's just like a pervasive sky. So this refers to the very difficult to fathom, very deep. And then whereas the perfect power refers to Sambhogakaya. Sambhogakaya is perfect power because they're going to have perfect power to drain the bodhisattvas on high stages, but they have great power to influence the bodhisattvas to perfect their path, and then guide the aims of childish. This is the Nirmanakaya, because the Nirmanakaya is the 3rd one who take form in human realm like the Siddhartha, and then guide the sentient beings according to the childish sentient being themselves, and they are numerically concordant. Numerically concordant means deep, vast, and great being. So these 3 are Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya respectively. So that's the meaning of the kayas. Meaning of the kayas are these 3. So meaning of Dharmakaya means deep. Meaning of Sambhogakaya means powerful. Meaning of the Nirmanakaya means guiding the childish. Because they deliberately manifest to guide the sentient beings and not in Akanishta or in the Dharmakaya. I could not. So they have to come down to the world like the Shakyamuni Buddha did. And then in talking about these 3 kayas in relation to being support and supported, the etymology of it. Here the first is the Dharmakaya, the later ones are Rupakaya. So the first is the support. Supported is the later ones. The Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya is supported, and support itself is Dharmakaya. Like the space supports the sky supports the rainbow. Without sky there is no rainbow. Okay, so like that, as the form abides in space, later abides in the first. So this is talking about the relationship between the Dharmakaya and the Rupakaya, two Rupakayas. Rupakaya is a collective name for Sambhogakaya and Dharmakaya and the Nirmanakaya. So that completes the sixth of the topic of the enlightenment. Now the seventh is in quality of enlightenment is permanent. So the only thing about the enlightenment is it is permanent. So that's the seventh one. This has two description: the brief and the detailed description of that. The enlightenment is permanent as the causes are boundless. So this is talking about the Rupakaya is permanent, and it has four particular way. Why it has permanent? It has the four function of guiding sentient beings by being there always. Like say, Sambho Sakyamuni Buddha may have been born, pass away, and 81 years later, but he's still permanent. His activity is still there. His activity and legacy is even more pulsatingly there now than it was there. Those days, people only saw Buddha and then received. Nowadays, even people don't see the Buddha. Buddha activity is everywhere. Yeah, Buddha activity is everywhere. So the permanent effect, the constant, incessant activities of the Buddha, the Rupakaya, in order to guide sentient beings. Because it says are boundless. As the causes are boundless, causes of sentient beings who are miserable, who are languishing in sorrow, are so much. There's so much client, so much client that you have to take up that job, you know. And sentient beings are inexhaustible. So number of sentient beings are not getting fewer, and because of that, possessing amazing love to the sentient beings as if they were his only child. So therefore love, the enlightened one has enlightened beings, love for sentient beings are as many as there are inexhaustible sentient beings. And because of that, then they have the miraculous power to remain as long as they are needed. Yeah, so that's the enlightened beings always remain. That's what when we always request the statues when we consecrate, we invoke the wisdom being, we ask them to remain until the whole world be destroyed by the elements and nothing remains. So because of that, the miraculous benefit of the enlightened ones, power. And they not only have, but they have three causes through which they do not abandon sentient beings. One is through their knowledge. Other is through their perfect qualities, and the third is the master of dharmic qualities. And they themselves are not tainted by samsara, even if they are in samsara, and they themselves are beyond death. That's what it says here. They are beyond death. Master of qualities vanquish the demon of death, because they themselves do not fear death, and they're not subject to death. And they may manifest in one body, and they may pass away, but they do not cease being Nirmanakaya. If one Nirmanakaya passes away, like His Holiness Dalai Lama, and he quickly will manifest in the world, and there is no stoppage of the activities of the permanence, because sentient beings are not decreasing, their sufferings aren't decreasing. So the activities of enlightened ones need to be permanent or continuously existing. Devoid of nature, the protector of all world is permanent. So therefore the enlightened one is permanent. Enlightened one does not is therefore immortality. We can call it immortality. Enlightened one Mahaparinirvana, but Mahaparinirvana is only shown for also as a teaching for those who are attached to grasping to things as real and permanent. So even the teaching of impermanence is to not get attached to permanence. Permanence. Enlightened qualities themselves are permanent, but sentient beings are taught how to remember everything is impermanent. Even Buddha's passing away itself was a teaching for people to not get attached to things. If there's nothing that is permanent, so let alone to worthy of getting attached to. So there is nothing that is permanent, and because of that, their main function is to teach sentient beings to wake up from the slumber and not stay stuck in the world. So that's why the verse number 229 is the brief outline of what constitutes the seventh quality of enlightenment that is permanent. Now, the detailed explanation of that is the talking about cause of the permanent Rupakaya and cause of permanent Dharmakaya, as well as permanent permanence of the nature. So we won't go over them tonight, but tonight we will just go over the first two verses. The detailed explanation: cause of permanent Rupakaya. How does the Rupakaya goes and reach to other sentient beings more vividly? So it says here, guiding others and not renouncing the world. They have two functions. Guiding others. Sentient beings need the presence of the emanation of the Rupakaya in order to guide them, in order to uphold the sacred Dharma. So this is talking about there are four things how one has to. The reason of guiding others, there are four things, because the Rupakaya is permanent, and it is the reason it has to be permanent is it has to be always there for the sake of others who still languish in samsara. And so for three uncountable eons, for the duration of three uncountable eons, they will give up their body, life, and possessions, and to benefit sentient beings, to fulfill the vows they have made. So there are four, in order to uphold the sacred Dharma, to benefit all sentient beings, to fulfill the vows, and they have therefore given up their body, lives, and possession. These four, because they have four particular practices to guide others, because if you don't hold the sacred Dharma, you can't benefit sentient beings. If you don't do that, you don't fulfill your vows you have made. And if you don't fulfill the vows, then all the renunciation of giving up your body, life, and possession in the past all prove to be useless. So why you give up all these things for? You gave up all those things, but if you don't really uphold the Dharma, if you don't benefit sentient beings, if you don't fulfill your vows, then even if you gave up your body and your lives and your possessions, then you're not doing all the other first three. So therefore, these first three are result of doing the fourth. The fourth is giving up your body, life, and possessions. And most sentient beings don't do that. Sentient beings don't want to give up the body. They want to grasp on the body. They want to hold on to the body. They want to cut a little bit from here, put in another one here. But they're attached to the body. Then, if you have a spare liver or spare kidney, you might give to somebody. But still, no. We are not really keen to give up our body, even to somebody that you love. You have to be really, really special to willing to go under the knives and give your spare liver to kidney to somebody. Yeah, Buddhas have given their body so many times. as a bodhisattva, have given their body many times, many lives, like the story of the of young Mahasattva feeding his body to the hungry tigers, because he's given up the body, given up life, possession, wealth, possessions, positions, relationships, status, all of that he's given up. Why? In order to uphold the sacred Dharma, so that he's now free to practice Dharma. Because if you're busy doing these things, life, possessions, and body, worried about how you look and all of that, and your things and your savings, and if you're doing this, you're just enslaved just doing that. You would not be able to do any sacred Dharma, because your hands is full. You can't do two things. But most people are busy doing the latter. They don't want to give up the body. They wanted to raise lives. They wanted to raise problems. They wanted to raise possessions, problems, and they don't want to practice Dharma. They want to do Dharma only occasionally. They really don't want to benefit sentient beings, because they really enough of sentient beings. And they don't want to fulfill any vows. They think the vows are a bit of a burden, They say, this commitment. They have almost like a resentment that they have these vows. So if you look at those four, it's very interesting. The enlightened ones, why they remain in the world as a permanent feature to help sentient beings, because they have made vows. They have given up all of that. Shakyamuni Buddha gave many times their lives, many times his body, many times his possession. Many times he accepted blames, many times he accepted insult, and he did this so as to fulfill the vow he made, fulfill the bodhicitta vow he made, so that even he's utterly inconvenienced by what he has to do, he accepted them in order to fulfill his vows, in order to not upset another sentient being. If you don't upset one sentient being in a day, it's pretty good, really. You're actually then practicing the so-called Dharma, because you actually took some blows, accept some blows, and not retaliate. Very good. Because you made vow that I will practice, I'll resuscitate those who are losing breath, I'll encourage those who are discouraged, I'll console those who are depressed. We make those vows, and when they are like that, we have to do that. Well, if you do that, you are now giving up. You're giving up something. So, and we do not see such many examples of people do that, except Bodhisattva's lives and Bodhisattva's way of lives and teachings. Constantly talking about these things, we're starting to take some notice. This is a real way of practicing Dharma. And then we might not whinge about the commitment, Then we may not working for the benefit of others is the core of your purpose of practice, Then you're not just doing things for yourself, and you're doing for the overall goodness for other sentient beings. Now you're beginning to actually see the real cause of permanent Dharmaka Rupakaya is so that your existence has to serve the purpose of sentient beings and to fulfill the vows you have made, and all your renunciation, all your discipline, all your consistent practice are now starting to serve some purpose. You shouldn't be practicing those things to preserve ego, to preserve me. Even you practice all of these things just to preserve me, it completely defeats the purpose. It should be totally giving up the ego and me, and then benefit sentient beings. Some people benefit others very easily. What small they do, it benefits. Other people do lots, but still doesn't benefit anyone. Why? Because they haven't really made it with bodhicitta motivation. If you do with the bodhicitta motivation, even small effort you make will benefit others. If you lack the bodhicitta motivation, even if you did lots of heavy lifting, instead of benefiting others, you are worried by doing that. You don't want to do another one. That sort of thing. Why? Because we are not able to emulate the examples of bodhisattvas. Whereas the bodhisattvas who have cause to achieve the Rupakaya is doing that. doing that very thing. And then it says, being pure, Buddhahood supremely engages with immaculate compassion. Yeah, because if you are pure, you engage with sentient beings who are suffering, who have problems, who are incredibly hard to deal with. Yes, exactly, you need them. And if you haven't got them, you are not fortunate. Your practice would not take off. You are surrounded by comfort, little warm, but in the meantime, you would not grow spiritually. So if you are pure, you need to engage with your immaculate compassion. Immaculate compassion is deep understanding of suffering of sentient beings, and treating the sentient beings as not someone but your child. That is the immaculate compassion. Because otherwise is kind of tainted compassion. Selfish orientated compassion is not compassion. Most of people practice lots of compassion, but all tainted by selfish motivation. Therefore, it's opposite of immaculate. It's poisonous compassion. Idiot compassion, they call it. Idiot compassion is different from immaculate compassion. Only things they both start with I. If that's any comfort. Immaculate compassion, idiot compassion. Most people are practicing idiot compassion, idiot patience, idiot helping, and you help, but you just do with kind of a self-preservation motivation. And all that kind of thing is idiot. You're wasting your time and others, let alone helping them, let alone helping you. Then you have reason to feel not helped because you didn't. So it's good to know you're really helping or not helping. Because if you're really helping, you have to have immaculate compassion and bodhicitta. Then your ability to give up some of your things, go out of your way to do things, then you're fulfilling the bodhisattva vows, then you are benefiting sentient beings, then you're upholding the real dharma. Upholding the real dharma is reconstitute your mind from this poor me to why not? Why shouldn't I? For the benefit of even one sentient being, I should be doing this. Instead of saying, may all sentient beings, and not do even with one sentient being. Mostly people are complaining about one sentient being all the time, It's terrible. They can't work with one sentient being, and yet they think they're Mahayanists. They think they have refuge. They haven't got the immaculate compassion. So, only the bodhisattvas who have taken up the Rupakaya to benefit, like Shakyamuni Buddha, like His Holiness Dalai Lama, you can see it's a tireless bodhisattva. It's totally to serve sentient beings, and no matter what it is. And because of that, their benefit or their benevolent effect on sentient beings is easily felt. Yeah. And being pure, so Buddhahood engages with sentient beings always with compassion. The legs of miraculous power are to abide there forever. So this means that you have reason to remain in the world, and because your objective to benefit sentient beings and potent motivation to remain to benefit sentient beings are ever so strong. And therefore there is no thinking, I'm doing too much, oh, this is not good, I'm neglecting myself. No such thing. The more you do, more miraculous great energy comes from giving than from keeping, And this legs of miracle means that as if you have found a new leg to walk with, because your bodhicitta is now gaining momentum. Your bodhicitta motivation is now seeing the momentum with power to abide there forever, and you don't mind having to do. You don't count what you did. You don't think how long is this long. it's not the time. It's the purpose why you do. Time itself is never long or never late. It's when you don't want to do, it's late. Yeah, when you don't want to do, it's too early. Yes. When you don't want to do, it's too frequent. But when you see the reason why you have to do and purpose for which you have to do, and then they will abide there forever. They just have to. They will there. It's like a vigil. Bodhisattva is like holding a vigil to never. Like Khyentse Chögye Lodro's wife, consort, I heard that she has made prayer that she will be reborn in hell, So at least she will be among people, among sentient beings whose suffering is very severe and she can't turn a blind eye on it. She didn't make prayer to be born in Sukhavati, She made prayer that may I be born in the lowest realms where sentient beings do not have much helpers. And the bodhisattvas remain there forever, not just choosing spots. Oh, I'll do this. I don't like this. Oh, it's too sunny here. I will go there. No, wherever it is least convenient. But however long it has to be done. The legs of miracle power are there to abide there forever. So these are what we call what is the meaning of permanent? Permanent doesn't mean is in action. This permanent means the activities of enlightenment is immortally there. It is constantly humming. The sound of compassion is constantly humming because suffering is incessantly there. There's hardly any moment sentient beings aren't suffering. There's no break from suffering. Suffering is just continuous, like a river. There's no time the river is not flowing, The river is always flowing. Even during winter, the river may be a little bit lower in the quantity of water, but river is still flowing. Likewise, samsara is always flowing in the river of sorrow, river of lamentation, river of loss, river of disappointment, river of sickness. Most beings are drowned by them. So there is never a time the suffering is stopping. So how could one's compassion stop? There's no sign of sentient beings exhausting who are suffering. So how could an enlightened being take a back seat and not do? That's why the permanent is the feature of the seventh feature of the enlightenment. Seventh feature of enlightenment. And in being able to work with sentient beings, gains this new momentum of a power that you previously lacked. That's called miraculous power. This miraculous power means that it looks as though you never had the intent or diligence, but now your diligence is amazingly miraculous. A lot of people get things done because of the diligence, because of their mindfulness, because of this. When we talk about the various aspects of the miraculous legs, they are mainly the right effort. We're talking about right effort. The right effort is the right effort that abstains from doing wrong things, right effort that totally uproots the existing wrong habits, and right effort that engages in existing wholesome habits, right effort that picks up new positive habits. And when you have picked up these four right efforts, then you have the miraculous power to have the speed of how much you can actually cover ground or benefit sentient beings. So this is talking about the momentum. The momentum that we usually lack is there because those sentient beings who you need to guide are there. There's no sign of number of sentient beings abating or reducing. Every time you meet a sentient being, more problem. Another problem. All the sentient beings are body of problems. Body of problems. So to think that, we should have people with no problem. Yes, people with no problem. Yes, we should have all these people in Dharma with no problems. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And some people say, why are we attracting all these people with problems? Samsara is a very attractive place with people with problems. The samsara, every eligible person in samsara is there. They all have 110 points. They're all highly qualified to have problems. And so why we should be surprised and disappointed and shocked? Why is like that? Why is not like that, poor thing, He hasn't heard the four seals of Dharma. He has heard, but he's still sleeping. He's still sleeping. He's still complaining. I shouldn't suffer. Why is like that? Because most people haven't got a clue what it means by four seals of Dharma. It isn't holding them because they haven't really paid attention that everything is impermanent. They say, yeah, but, they rather have permanent. They don't realize attachment to permanent thing is already a suffering. Attachment thinking impermanent things is permanent is already the suffering. So they don't want suffering, but they are attached to to things as wanting them to be permanent. If your front teeth is straight and sharp and clean and white, it's good. But when it moves and when it pains, you should accept that. You should accept that. They say even your front best tooth should be removed. Even all 32 of them, one by one, you should remove. And you shouldn't because every tooth is no real tooth if it wasn't in the mouth anyway. Then what's the purpose of the tooth if it doesn't fit in the mouth? If it causes more pain in the mouth than it on the table, put it on the table at least. and remove it and put it on the table. So why you complain about teeth? You should have born with no teeth. Then it would be good. Then you will complain, I have no tooth. Then you say, my teeth are not straight. And then they put all this bracelet, all this. When are you going to accept things? Of course you can straighten the teeth, you can brush the teeth, but we're not really hearing. We really haven't got really good enough, sufficient realization of the four seals of Dharma. And that's what meditation is all about, so that you're in the right view that all things are impermanent. Alas, because people don't know this, therefore they are angry, therefore they are attached, therefore they are aggressive. Yet, if they only knew that things are impermanent, and through meditation, if they have this right view that everything is impermanent, then they will not whinge. They'll just accept that, and it will at least reduce the severity of the suffering. There are three types of suffering: suffering of change, or pervasive conditioning. So the suffering of suffering will not be so incessant, because you know how not to make the suffering of suffering. Because suffering is already bad enough. It doesn't have to be upgraded to suffering of sufferings. Usually we have no hesitation to upgrade the suffering to suffering of sufferings, because we refuse to accept it as suffering. And when you refuse to accept, you react, you're angry, and then you perpetuate it. See, where's the right view? Where's the right view? If right view is not thinking everything's empty, that's cop out, Right view is there is no suffering that truly exists if you are not grasping to it. If you're not aversive to suffering, there's no truly exist suffering. Why is everything emptiness? Well, the emptiness, selflessness is saying everything is empty of true existence, including suffering. So you don't have to whinge on the suffering that doesn't exist truly. That is the right view. And most sentient beings don't have this knowledge, therefore you feel compassion. Therefore you treat them with compassion and immaculate compassion, because they don't know this. They haven't heard this before. They haven't really studied how to read this suffering. They haven't read the Dharma. They have read Dharma, but they haven't understood it. They know names, they know list of 5 or list of 6 and the sequel. That's about it. They have sat on a test, they got mark high, but they have not got a clue what's Dharma. Real Dharma is really staying very present in knowing how all things are impermanent. The Buddha said, the one who thinks and knows impermanent is blessed one by me. You're already in the right view. You will have compassion to those who lack this understanding. Because of that, you're tolerant. And yourself is not impinged by their suffering, but instead use their suffering as cause of your compassion. It's not a cause of your aversion. When you have aversion to people with problem and people with suffering, you haven't heard the seal of Dharma of prevalence of suffering. Simple as that. So difficult to fathom. Conceptually understand, but not actually realize the truth. Because this is a seal. This is a seal. If you really got it, they hold you. This is a seal that you should honor. You don't put the signature for nothing. Unless you want it to be, you will honor that. So seal of Dharma, these four things, these four seals of Dharma, which is mentioned in verse 224, you know. Knowing the sounds of impermanence, suffering, selfless, and peace will persuade sentient beings and arouse the sadness of the three realms of existence. So then you really develop not kind of depression sadness, but sadness that arouses renunciation. And then they themselves will enter into the path of amazing, incessant compassion towards sentient beings who lack this knowledge. Yeah, and not run away from sentient beings, but abide with the sentient beings, but always employ and survey the plight of sentient beings suffering, and then develop compassion for those who are resisting, who are denying, who are rejecting, who are complaining, without knowing everything what they're doing is exacerbating the very suffering they don't want. They don't want suffering, but they're creating the causes of it. This is the tyranny. This is the tragedy. They haven't heard. They haven't been woken up. They haven't heard the noise of the suffering. They have denied the suffering. They don't want to talk about suffering. As soon as they're suffering, they think it's impossible. It's an unrealistic thing happen, an unprecedented thing happen. They don't realize that's the nature of existence. Then you have this true, genuine compassion to your past and to others who don't see this. See, these four seals of Dharma is no ordinary matter. These are the really core of the Buddha Dharma. Then your bodhicitta, right view. These are right view regarding these three. And then you have the peace. Peace is only a result of having those three seals of Dharma first. In Theravada, they don't talk about the four seals of Dharma. They talk about three characteristics of the Dharma. Because they see that nirvana is a result of realizing those three. But without realizing those three, nirvana is no point mentioning about it. So that's why they call three characteristics of path. In Mahayana, they're a little bit positive. They're straight away four seals of Dharma. Because there is a sutra, they talk about the four summary of Dharma. They call four summary of Dharma. If we don't talk about these four seals of Dharma, you couldn't tell it's Buddhism. It could be any religion. It could be any religion. But if people really got to heed to these four, even non-believers in spirituality will start to take notice the wisdom. That's why Buddhist philosophy people like. Why people like lots of Buddhists? They don't like Buddhist religion, or they don't want a religion in the first place. Any religion will, let alone another foreign religion. Their own religion is not doing that. They don't need another religion. But if they heard the philosophy means love of knowledge. It just makes yourself, the knowledge empowers the person to not suffer in the same way by denying suffering. So when you know all these things are nature and characteristic of life, and that is a true fact of life. If you want to know why the life is like this, we have to know why life could not be anything else. Then people will accept, and because this society is the opposite. They deny sufferings. They wanted to build the self. They wanted to promote self-esteem. They got self-esteem. They got assertive training, huh? It's dangerous. Assertive training. and always build your self-confidence, They teach these things, and they said, should not have any suffering. How are you? I'm fine. Are you really sure you're fine? The fact that we have to keep always asking each other, how are you, means how bad is your suffering? We should use the language, how bad is your suffering, my dear? Instead of saying, how are you, mate? How bad is your suffering recently? Then as Buddhists we can laugh. we can laugh and grin. How bad is suffering? Not too bad. I have accepted. I have learned to accept. I have surrendered to the Buddha's truth. I haven't been denying and rejecting and the fact of life. I have surrendered this ego, and not go into that. I have just accepted. If you've lost something, you're not doing something as good as before, it's no surprise. Everything's impermanent, Yes, share market goes up, share market goes down, share market goes up, Bitcoin market goes up, Bitcoin market becomes just a bit. Then there's no bit left in one day. One day Bitcoin left, no bit left, Yeah, it's called good nature of all things like that. So it's whose share goes up all the time and everybody's goes down, not like that, Sometimes yours goes up, other times theirs goes down. Next time you won't even be there when all your shares going up, but you'll be dead. So you have lots of shares, there's a lot of dividends, but no dividend owner. Yeah, try to keep until then you will really see, Anyway, so we will stop there tonight, and then remaining part of this chapter we'll do next week. Everyone, thank you for your attendance and merit and reflecting on these things, enlightenment of the Buddha, because there are very few people who got enlightened, and Shakyamuni Buddha is the only one who has achieved this so far. So therefore we have good reason to reflect on the legacy of the enlightened one. His legacy is still pulsating, beating the heart of the Dharma, like he's never passed away. The enlightened one's activity is beating, and this very interaction that we have is the living proof of the permanence of enlightenment, permanent positive impact of the enlightenment of the Buddha. Had there not been an enlightened one, this wouldn't be happening. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Let's do the dedication of merits. From the ocean of Mahayana whatever mereda meho begas de levas Choedak Mahayana diji Hareja manjuja nyavade Asanga Vajra de Lama follow him all the example Ajade de mere Salam Bodhi Chida Teba Naya Danzo where has been Bohemejing freely without generation. Thank you, everyone.